All right, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for taking time out of your busy schedules to be a part of our Agribusiness Assistance webinar series. And this webinar is entitled Agritourism Resources from the State. So today the purpose really of this webinar is to learn what state resources are available to help you get started or expand your agritourism operation. We got, especially around fall time as it is now, there's a lot of agritourism operations going on. I actually just took my daughter she's 8 months old, took her to Little Pumpkin Patch. We had a lot of fun, and so this webinar is here to help you expand your agritourism operation or get started if that's what you want to do. And this is going to be looking at resources that our Department of Agriculture and the Department of Environment and Conservation have to sort of help you if you don't know where to start or don't know what is needed for expanding your operation. So we're going to be hearing from Kacey Troup with the Tennessee Department of Agriculture. She's going to go first, and we're also going to have representatives from the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation, more specifically our SBEAP program, which stands for the Small Business Environmental Assistance Program. And yeah, so very excited about the resources that we've got here today. We are going to be recording this and having it as a resource on our website. So don't feel like you got to take too many notes. Just pay attention, and if you have any questions, we love questions, and it helps, I feel like, hit home the understanding of what's talked about on these webinars. So this webinar is being put on by, like I said, the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation in collaboration with the Tennessee Department of Agriculture. So my name is Caleb Powell, and I'm an environmental scientist for the Office of Sustainable Practices at TDEC, and I'm going to be your host today for the webinar. So everyone is muted upon entry to reduce the amount of background noise, but if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to ask those in the chat, and I'll work on getting those answered. So now what I'm going to do is I'm sending a chat to everybody that shows where that chat box is. It should be on your right-hand side. And so if you've got a question, or if you have an issue with audio or any of your video or any of that kind of thing, so the housekeeping items, make sure that where it says send to and it's got a drop down box, that all participants or all panelists or the word host is in one of those that you choose, so that I will get that and can ask those questions to our wonderful speakers or help you with any of your sort of back of house issues that you might have. So without further ado, I am going to pass it on over to our wonderful speaker. First, we've got Kacey Troup she's a business consultant with the Tennessee Department of Agriculture. She's going to go over some of the agritourism resources that the Department of Agriculture has. So I'm going to pass the presenting capabilities over to her, let her tell a little bit about herself, and then get into the resources that TDA has to offer. The floor is yours, Kacey.
Thank you. Can you all hear me all right?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Thank you, Caleb. So like I mentioned, I'm Kacey Troup. I'm a business consultant with the Tennessee Department of Agriculture, and we're going to be going over some of the most useful state resources that we offer for agritourism operations. We've got a short amount of time today and a lot to cover, so there may be questions that you have at the end if we don't have time to go as in-depth as you've hoped with some of these. So I'll have my contact information at the end. You can always reach out to me if you have additional questions or think of things after the webinar as well. So let's just go ahead and jump in. I always like to give a little bit about me before I get started on presentations like this. So I was raised on an agritourism farm in southern Maryland. I was 6 years old when my family started our corn maze and has since grown our business to multiple different facets of agritourism. I moved here to go to college and earn an ag business degree from MTSU, where I was the student coordinator for all of the university's agritourism events and worked to get their agritourism club and program started at the university while I was there, both undergrad and as a graduate student. And now I work for the Department of Ag as the agritourism consultant, and I also work with farmer veterans and beginning farmers as well. So just a little bit about me. This photo you see here is of my daughter. We took her to a patch recently too, just last month in October, and we had so much fun as a family getting to share the things that I love with her and watching her explore the farms and the pumpkin patches. It was an awesome time. So I hope y'all all got out to a farm while they were open last month. So things we're going to cover today, we're going to do a brief overview of the Department of Agriculture if you're not familiar with the department as a whole and what we do, and then dive more into the resources we have within the Business Development Division specific to agritourism. So it's going to be our Pick Tennessee Products Program, our Ag Enhancement Program. We'll briefly mention some of our other funding programs we have just so you're aware of them. And then I am going to include a few other statewide resources that aren't from the Department of Agriculture, but are agritourism related that I do want to make sure everyone is aware of. So the mission of the Department of Ag is to serve, support, and promote agriculture and forestry in Tennessee. And we have 5 major divisions: administration and grants, forestry, consumer and industry services, animal health, and then business development, where I am housed. Just real quick to kind of know what each of the divisions are in charge of. Administration and grants is our budget, HR, legal, public affairs. They do our commodity distribution, they house our ag crime unit, and the ag museum. If you haven't been to ag museum up here at the Ellington Ag Campus, I encourage you to stop in. They have a lot of great educational displays and do a lot of educational programming. So if education is something you are wanting to have as part of a main part of your business, they'd be a great place to stop in and get some ideas from. Forestry is all things forestry for the state of Tennessee: industry development, forest management and health, landowner assistance, all those things that go along with managing the Tennessee forest. Consumer and industry services, this is a regulatory arm of the department, so they're the ones going out and inspecting food and dairy, or feed and seed and fertilizer. They work with plant health. Weights and measures is they certify scales and gas pumps, make sure they're working correctly, and they provide some laboratory services. Animal health is kind of what you think it'd be. They monitor and protect animal health, do disease diagnostics and prevention, and they help with the response if there were ever to be any welfare or health issues with livestock across our state. And then business development, we're going to hang out today. We focus on agribusiness investment. We also have our market news and grading services. We house the Pick Tennessee Products Program in the farm, the Tennessee Ag Enhancement Program, and several other grant programs for Tennessee agriculture and forestry businesses. And we're going to talk about all of these things as we go through the presentation. So this is our current team. Andy Hull is our Assistant Commissioner. These are some of our other consultants. Mike Brown is our Food Manufacturing Consultant. If you're looking to do any value-added products or food manufacturing on your farm, commercial kitchens, those kinds of things, he's a great resource. Christina Greer is our, I need to update this, she's gotten married, that's not her last name anymore. Christina Slater is our International Marketing Consultant, working with Tennessee ag and forestry businesses who are looking to sell their products in other countries. David Newman is our forestry consultant. Rachel Sullivan is our executive assistant. She helps with a lot of our grant programs that we have, and then myself with agritourism, new farmers, and farmer veterans. And then we also will be filling some positions soon and adding to our team with these other positions, hopefully really soon. The Ag Enhancement team. The most important person for agritourism on this team is Grant Pulse. He's the Producer Diversification Coordinator, and we're going to be talking a lot about the program that he runs and providing his contact information as well throughout the presentation. These are just some good phone numbers for all the different various departments across the Department of Agriculture. So if you're ever needing to get in touch with a certain department, these are the phone numbers you'll need. You can always call the main line or email in the main line, and they'll direct you to the right person as well. All right, so let's talk about what agritourism is. There's a lot of questions around agritourism. What is agritourism? What isn't? We get asked a lot about what certifies you as agritourism, get an agritourism permit, all of those kinds of questions get asked very frequently. So a general definition that the National Ag Law Center has says that agritourism should combine the following 4 factors. So it's elements of agriculture and tourism together. It attracts members from the public to visit an agriculture operation. It's designed to increase farm income and either provides recreation, entertainment, or educational experiences to its visitors. Getting a little bit more specific for Tennessee, we do not have an official agritourism definition for the state of Tennessee, but we do have a definition of agriculture. So those first two bullets here, they're talking about mainly production agriculture, and then the second two where I've highlighted some things in red are where we see aspects of agritourism come into this definition. So in Tennessee, we're looking for agritourism to be recreational or educational activities that's on land used for commercial production of agriculture and nursery products. So it's something that's happening in conjunction with and not on its own. So there is that element of needing to have some agriculture production on your farm. And then the last bullet point talks about entertainment. So in Tennessee, entertainment activities are things that are conducted in conjunction with but secondary to that commercial production of agriculture and nursery stock. So the first, recreation and education, happen with ag production, and then entertainment has to happen with ag production but must be secondary to the ag production. And this is where you can find this definition in the Tennessee Code if you're looking for it. Help you find it a little bit more easily there. So Pick Tennessee Products is the first program we're going to talk about. This is all things local for Tennessee. It's an ever-growing network of businesses, food businesses, ag businesses in Tennessee, and our goal is to help connect those businesses to the consumer. It's been around since 1987. We've been growing up to over 2,800 businesses listed on our directory. It's free for people to join and to apply and to be able to take advantage of this marketing program. And like I mentioned, the goal is to help connect Tennessee consumers to our ag businesses across the state, whether they're selling produce, meat, or other food products, whether they're value-added food products, or if they're agritourism providing some sort of on-farm activity as well. So there are 3 ways to access this directory. You can go to picktnproducts.org. We also have a free mobile app both on iTunes and the Google Play Store. So there are 2 great ways to access our directory. In both, you can search for a business by their type, products they're offering or services they're offering, and by region and county. One cool feature of the app is that as long as the user has their GPS location services turned on, it will list the businesses in order of who is closest to their current location, which is a really cool feature that the app has. So to join Pick Tennessee Products, you will go to picktnproducts.org. At the top of the page, you'll see an Apply Now button. It takes less than 5 minutes to submit an application, and then our team, depending on what type of business it is, it gets sent out to the appropriate consultant. All the agritourism applications come directly to me. I review them and usually make a phone call to just learn more about what your business is and see what other ways we could help. And then we'll get you approved, and we try to do that within a week at most. If you already have a listing with us and you ever need to make changes or updates, that is something that we have to do on the back end. It's not something you could do yourself on the website. So you would just email pick.tn@tn.gov, and we can make any updates that you need. And that's for both the website and the mobile app. Once you're listed on Pick Tennessee Products, we do have a few promotional items that we can send for free, including these flags to hang on your farm and price cards if you're selling any kind of product that you want to be able to write the price on easily. So this is kind of what the top of the website looks like, where you can see the Apply Now button, and it'll take you through these steps. And it should take you 10 to 15 minutes at most to fill this out. So different categories that are kind of fall into the agritourism realm that are listed on Pick Tennessee Products would be anybody offering a pick your own operation, pick your own strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, pumpkins, cut flowers, those kinds of things. Christmas tree farms, fee fishing, horse trails, and then our fun education section houses all of our corn mazes and festivals, hay rides, pumpkin patches, on-farm lodging, summer camps, farm tours, event venues, things like that. I do want to put this out there that Pick Tennessee Products isn't a certification or any kind of proof or permit, any of those different things that certify you as being agritourism. It's just solely used as a tool to help you connect to consumers. This is 2 examples of what a listing on our website would look like. So we have the business name, contact information. We can link phone numbers, websites, email addresses, various types of social media. We can provide a photo. It could be any photo you like, whether it's your farm's logo, or if you want to provide a family photo, whichever you like, we can add a photo to the listing. We have the ability in agritourism to have different seasons. So if you have a fall season and it has different hours than your spring season, we can list both of those and show which months those seasons are happening, whether they're March to May or they're August to October, and tell the days and times that you're open throughout those seasons. There is a section that will list all of the activities that you have or products that you sell. And then there's a section for, it's called additional information. This is your description section where you can either share your farm story or provide additional detail about important things that you want consumers to see when they're looking at your page. And there's also a button where they would take them directly to Google Maps to find directions to your farm as well. Some other opportunities that come from being a member of Pick Tennessee Products is we like to do these co-op ads in the Tennessee Home and Farm magazine, and we always do an agritourism ad for their fall issue. So we will have 6 to 9 spots depending on how many people apply for farms to put in a little ad about what they're going to offer and provide a link to your website where people can learn more about the farm. And these come at a discounted rate, so it's a great way to get into a widely circulated magazine for a very affordable price. We also have our social media opportunities. Our social media platforms are growing every day, and we are always looking to highlight our members on our social media. So this photo might be a little bit hard to see, so I want to point out some important things that are happening here. So we've got a post we did just last week for a farm talking about sweet potatoes and buying local for Thanksgiving season and looking to purchase local products on your shopping list to include into your recipes. And you can kind of see the reach that we got just from this one post, how many people were able to see it, how many people interacted on it, comments we got. So our social media is a great way to amplify your efforts as well and connect with consumers that we have in our following that might not necessarily be in your following yet, and just help have you have a greater range of people who could become your customer. So that is kind of Pick Tennessee Products in a nutshell. We are going to move on to the Ag Enhancement Program. So this is a cost share program focusing on making long-term investments into Tennessee farms. We're looking to help people maximize their profit, adapt to changes in the market, improve safety and efficiency, and overall make a positive impact, economic impact in their communities. So there are 2 applications for this program. Application A, the simplest way to put it is your more traditional production agriculture side of the application, and then Application B is called producer diversification. Within producer diversification, we have some subcategories, including agritourism, fruit and vegetable, honeybees, horticulture, organic, and value-added products. So all of these categories have the opportunity to apply for cost share funding either at a 35% or a 50% cost share. And we're going to talk a little bit more about agritourism part of this application. So for the purposes of ag enhancement, agritourism happens on a working farm that's providing on-farm experiences related to production agriculture for a fee, and the goal is to increase the profitability of the farming operation. This program places a priority on ag education and production, increasing the knowledge of production agriculture. So farm education, farm activities, farm fun, and farm purchases, these are kind of the 4 things that this particular program will look at in the review process. So historically, it's been up to $12,000. Now that's always subject to change each year, but we have seen the maximum reimbursement amounts be $12,000 for the last several years at either, like I mentioned, 35% or 50% cost share. So a standard producer is anybody who's applying. You start out at that 35% cost share opportunity, and then what we call master producers are businesses that have completed at least 2 special education requirements. And then there is a long list of opportunities to qualify for this master producer, various webinars, in-person workshops, conferences, things like that. It's very easy to meet the 2 educational requirements to be able to bump you up to that 50% cost share. So qualifying projects for the agritourism section of this program focuses on long-term public use and increased opportunities for profitability with a focus on ag education, like I mentioned. So they're looking for items that are going to be able to be used for 5 years. And it's important to know that ag enhancement does review operations on past income and success of current farm diversification. So competitively speaking, startup operations are not as competitive as agritourism operations that have been open for at least 3 years. And that's not to say that you have to have huge amounts of income and it can be like a very large operation to be competitive. They just like to look for operations that are showing growth over a 3-year period. So some of the eligible items, please know that this list is not exhaustive. This is not all of the eligible items that you can apply for, and this list is subject to change. So just because something is listed here today doesn't mean there's the potential for it to not be on the eligible list when applications come out next year. So some things that we see people apply for most often are hand washing stations, handicap accessible areas, haywide wagons. I will say the committee likes to see wagons that provide a level of safety for their customers. Parking areas are also popular. Retail shelters are popular. Signs to promote the farm operation or provide direction to the farm are another item that's frequently applied for. But know that, keep in mind that 5-year verification period, where if you're going to apply for things like signs, you're going to want to make sure they are of quality that will last for 5 years, if not more. So here's a list of things that would not be eligible to apply for. A lot of these things are your kind of general inputs to the business, like your landscaping or your fencing, your membership fees or your electric bill, things like that. So these are just some examples of things that you would not want to apply for through this program. So the application period happens every year in October. and you can find the information on the website at tn.gov/TAEP. And it will have last year's application on there, so you can look and see what that looks like and try to plan for your application coming up in October. It's always the first weekend in October, or the first full week in October. You'll want to submit the application, and then there's also a narrative where you talk about what your farm does, what your current production is, your goals for moving forward. You'll want to include a project budget with quotes, and then other supporting materials. And the application does a great job of walking you through, and there's even a provided template so you know you're including all of the things that are needed for the application. So Grant Pulse, I mentioned in the beginning, he is the coordinator for producer diversification. I have his phone number and his email here. And like I mentioned, the application period is the first week in October every year. So I would recommend getting on the website, looking over that past application, reaching out to Grant, asking questions, talking with him about it, learning more about the program in order to be prepared for the 1 week opening that an application can be submitted. So we're going to briefly talk about these other TDA funding opportunities. I wanted to talk about ag enhancement the most because that's where we see agritourism farms being the best fit and the most competitive. But we do have these other opportunities as well. The Ag Enterprise Fund happens on a quarterly basis. The next deadline is going to be January 10th, and it focuses on businesses that have projects that will help expand the ag industry as far as being able to purchase more inputs from other farms and having an impact on other farms in their area. So we see a lot of processing projects come through this application. Specialty Crop Block Grant is to further the education and knowledge of specialty crops, which are the fruits and vegetables and several other things, but those are the main two. And then we have the Farm and TUF programs. FARM stands for Forestry, Agriculture, Rural Markets, and TUF is Tennessee Urban Farms and Forests. So the application for FARM is actually currently happening until the end of this month. So there are information on the main TDA website. If you're interested in learning more about these programs, you can go there and read about their intent of those programs and the goal of those programs to see if you might be a good fit for them. But like I said, agritourism tends to be more of an ag enhancement fit than anything else. Okay, so now we're going to talk about some things that are not from the Department of Agriculture, but maybe from other state departments that support agritourism, or they might be a producer group as well. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is the Agritourism Tourist-Oriented Directional Signs. This is a program out of TDOT, Department of Transportation, and it's the opportunity for businesses to apply to have a sign that looks like these blue rectangles along state routes, where it says the business name, how many miles away it is, with an arrow directing people in the correct direction. If you are interested in getting one of these signs, you would reach out to Eric Jackson over at the Department of Transportation. This link will take you to all of the program's rules and guidelines, how to qualify to how to apply, and all of that. There is, let me go back one slide here. There is the opportunity, you may have seen these signs along state routes before. The only difference with the agritourism version is that we do have a special sticker that goes on the sign that looks like a farm with a sun setting behind it to indicate that it is an agriculture business. And then there's also the state logo, or the state logo program. So I'm sure everybody is familiar with, as you're going down the major interstates across Tennessee, as you come to an exit, there's a sign for food, gas, lodging, those kinds of things. This is where you can apply to have your business's logo along one of those exit ramps off the interstate. As long as you are within 15 miles from that interstate exit, you are eligible to apply for this. And again, Eric Jackson would be the person that you would want to contact to get some more information about that program and how to apply. And there is the link to the full program description and guidelines. Next, I want to talk about some resources that come out of the Department of Tourist Development. They've got a rural tourism section of their department. There's people who put out the Tennessee Vacation Guide, the Made in Tennessee websites, and printed guides as well. They also run the welcome centers across the state. They also offer some co-op advertising just like we do as well. They do have some tourism grants and initiatives that you could reach out to them and learn more about. But one thing I did want to focus on a little bit is their vacation guide on their website. A lot of our agritourism farms take advantage of both the Pick Tennessee Products website, which lists all of the agritourism opportunities and activities that farms are offering. But they also create what they call a partner page with the Department of Tourism as well. So this is an example of what one of our corn mazes in East Tennessee looks like on their partner page, where they're able to upload some pictures of their farm. Again, it has contact information, phone numbers. They can put some general information, hours of operation, things like that. So very similar to what we can offer on Pick Tennessee Products through our listings. It's just another great place to increase your exposure to consumers. They do have a really cool feature that I like on their website where it's called Plan My Trip, where you can select different farms. So I've selected 3 agritourism farms, and then it pulls up a map and kind of shows you where they're at across the state, so you can plan your vacation if you're going to road trip across Tennessee. So I kind of mentioned a lot of these already. Things that are included on a partner page listing, very similar to all of the things that we list on Pick Tennessee Products as well. And then the benefits, we talked about these. The biggest benefit being just another way to reach an even larger audience. And there's a good amount of people who, outside of Tennessee, who are using their website to plan their Tennessee vacations. So that even gets you some customers that might come from outside of Tennessee as well. The last couple of things we're going to talk about is 2 statewide producer associations. So these are not connected with the Department of Agriculture, though we do help and support them. So Tennessee has an agritourism association. Their goal is to help build farm income through agritourism and expand tourism income within rural communities. They are a phenomenal educational networking group of people who are in agritourism already or who are looking to get started in agritourism. They put on quarterly meetings throughout the year. They try to host one in all 3 of the regions across the state to make travel easy for their members. And each time they will have an educational speaker and do a farm tour. So it's a great place to meet people who are doing similar things that you are and get ideas, ask questions, help learn from their past experiences of what worked, what didn't work. They are a phenomenal group of people who are very willing to share and be supportive of others. And then the Tennessee Christmas Tree Grower Association is very similar. They do all of those same things, but they have a focus on Christmas tree production across the state. So this is a very similar group, mainly for Christmas tree growers and those selling Christmas trees direct to consumers in Tennessee. And then finally, the Center for Profitable Agriculture. They are through the University of Tennessee through their extension services, and they are a phenomenal educational resource, and they have an agritourism section on their website. I've included the link here. They have an abundance of publications that I often send to people when they call our office asking for resources and help for various things. So whether you're looking for what kind of business licenses you might need, or information about agritourism liability, risks involved with opening an agritourism operation, they have publications for everything. So they're a great place to go and browse through their educational content. Megan LeFew is their agritourism coordinator over there in their office, and she is a great resource as well. So I would like to leave people with this quote before I conclude an agritourism session. So these are my grandparents. This is my family's farm in Maryland that I grew up on. You can see behind them is our goat tail where all of our goats live. And we had a customer say to us one time, some people have a banker, some people have a doctor, but I have a farmer. And I just think that's a really powerful statement that they said, because agritourism is the perfect way, in my opinion, to help farmers bridge that gap to the consumer and build that connection and share their stories and have that personal connection with each other. So I always like to share this quote and encourage people to remember when you're getting into agritourism, you are still involved in agriculture, but now you're involved in people as well, and to remember the importance of that personal interaction with people as you grow your business. So this is my contact information. I have my email and my phone number here for you. I do want to let everybody know that I will, in the next couple of weeks, be going on an extended leave for maternity leave. So if you need me in the next several months, please reach out to this main business development line, and we'll have somebody who will be taking all of the agritourism calls and answering questions while I am out.
Kacey, thank you so much for all of that information. It's funny, as you were speaking and, just talking about all the resources, I couldn't help but think about my family's farm. And, right now, my grandpa just rented out to another farmer because he's not able to farm it anymore for row crops and stuff like that. But, as I get older and I'd like to move out to the farm, and I've always thought about starting a little agritourism operation out there. So my dad, he's actually working, he's got his first granddaughter that we've had this year. He said that he's going to build her own petting zoo. So I was like, okay, this is a good way to start that. I'll let him do a lot of that work into building the barn and getting the petting zoo started, and then I can come in there, work with you guys and use some of these resources to start our little agritourism operation. So
yeah, that's exciting.
Wanted to thank you so much for all that you do in this space, and everyone, if you see something that could help you with your operation, please reach out to Kacey and the whole group at the business development division at TDA. So I wanted to make sure that we had enough time for the TDEC part. Kacey, I'll look through. I don't see any questions right now, but if there is any come in, we'll ask those at the end. I want to now introduce our next speaker, Crystal Warren. She, like I mentioned before, is with the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation, more specifically our Office of Sustainable Practices, more specifically the Small Business Environmental Assistance Program. She's an environmental consultant, and her along with my other colleague, Donovan Grimwood, they are powerhouses when it comes to resources for environmental permitting, really just any environmental question you might have as a small business. So I'm going to pass it on over to you, Crystal, and the floor is yours. And you might put,
yep, sorry, I struggled to take myself off mute. Thank you, Caleb. Hey everyone, I'm excited to be here and share with you a little bit of TDEC's resources regarding tourism. And Caleb went through the different sections that I'm a part of, and that leads right into my first slide. So when I was at a conference a few years ago, it was actually the PICTN conference, and a gentleman came up to our booth, TDEC had a booth, and he said, "Is Sarah here?" And we don't have a Sarah in our group, and there's 2,700 staff within TDEC, so we're the second largest state department. And so it made me realize that the general public doesn't realize how big TDEC is and the vast amount of work that we do. So I like to start my presentations explaining that, and also starting with our mission, because sometimes the public can get frustrated with regulations, and I like to explain what our mission is because it helps explain why we have regulations, why we have requirements. So in general, I have TDEC's mission posted at the top here, but to me, the biggest point is that our mission is to protect and improve the quality of Tennessee's air, land, and water through a responsible regulatory program. So again, that's why we have regulations, and I'm going to go through those in this presentation briefly, but just keep that in mind as we go. And to further explain where our 2,700 staff are located, we have a regulatory section and a non-regulatory section. Caleb and I are in the non-regulatory section. So we mentioned we're in the Office of Sustainable Practices. I and my colleague Donovan are in the Small Business Environmental Assistance Program, that's highlighted here on the right, where the agritourism sector may get involved with TDEC is more so on the regulatory side, in addition to using us as a resource. So some of the regulatory divisions, we have several, and they're listed on the left: air pollution, water resources, solid waste, underground storage tanks, remediation, rad health. So there's a few. We cover everything, all the media. Where agritourism may get involved, maybe air pollution control, water resources, solid waste management, just to give y'all an idea. So I'm going to quickly go through some permits that agritourism may be involved in, may not. Most of the time, I'm going to give you a brief overview of the permit and say if you think that you need this permit, just go ahead and call us. I'll go into more description about my program later, Small Business Environmental Assistance Program, but we are a resource for you. Just keep that in mind till we get to that section. So I got to remember where to click. Different permits that may be needed for agritourism are water, in the Division of Water Resources. That could be wastewater permits, drinking water, stormwater, stream alterations permits. If we're dealing with the Division of Solid Waste, there may be a permit needed for composting activities. If we're dealing with the Division of Air, the most common for agritourism is incineration. A permit may be needed for those activities. So again, just to go over what my program is very quickly, there's all these regulatory divisions. It can be overwhelming to the public. That's where my program comes in, Small Business Environmental Assistance Program. We kind of serve as the liaison between the public and the regulatory divisions to help guide you through the process. All right, so getting started with the permits, by far the most frequent permit that's needed for agritourism is wastewater. So the question that I get asked most often is, how do I dispose of my wastewater? There's only 2 approved methods in Tennessee. So, and I have those 2 listed here. One is city sewer. If you are connected to your city sewer, you would contact them. There would be no TDEC involvement whatsoever. Where TDEC does get involved is if you have a septic system. So again, 2 approved methods. One is city sewer, the other one's septic system. So if you're not connected to the city sewer, then you have to have a septic system. And that could be for if you have a pumpkin patch and you want to provide a bathroom for your guests, you may need a septic system. If you are doing activities where you have a pumpkin patch, but you also have baked goods, and you're involved with TDA with that, Department of Ag, for a license to provide your baked goods, and so you have sinks, restrooms associated with that, that may need a septic system. So if you do, go ahead and call us. Figure out what steps are needed. We'll talk you through the process, guide you through the application process. Often I'm asked, is another method approved, X, Y, and Z, such as land application, connecting your business septic system with your residential septic system. We have a ton of not approved methods in Tennessee. So that's just 2 of the questions I get. We have 2 approved methods, lots of non-approved methods. Just try to make that as simple as possible. Okay, So when dealing with septic systems, I'll go over this real quick. It is a state-issued permit. There are several counties within the state that have that delegated authority that the state is not involved in. So for example, I live in Memphis. Shelby County is a delegated county, so anyone in Shelby County is contacting the health department. They're not contacting the state. And this just gives you a quick summary of what states have delegated authority, so don't contact TDEC. Okay, so just to give you a quick overview of how that septic system process works, there's several terms we use. We say septic systems, SSDS, so I'm going to throw those out interchangeably. I'm going to try not to, but I tend to. So the permitting process for that, for agritourism, for a business, is a little different than a residential. So businesses require two types of permits because they're commercial operations. That's what's written into the regulations. So the first one is the one on the right. If you look at the construction permit, that's the same thing that you get as a residential. You have a tank and field lines. That's issued out of your local field office. The additional permit that's required for businesses is the one on the left, so the Class 5 underground injection control permit. That's issued out of central office. That requires an additional tank. So businesses, commercial operations require 2 tanks in addition to field lines. Again, this is a quick summary. If you have questions about it, just go ahead and give us a call. We'll talk you through it. This is a slide of something that's not permitted that I found that I took this picture. So it was an operation where they drained their waste into an above ground storage tank. I don't know where it went from there. I'm assuming they got it pumped and hauled off, but know that this is an illegal operation. So in Tennessee, we have lots of talented people that try to come up with other ways to dispose of their wastewater, but I want to go back to that first slide that I emphasized. We have 2 approved methods. This is not one of them. Just really quickly, some tips and tricks if you do need a septic system. One is that commercial operations requires soils maps. So this is obtained through a third party, a Tennessee licensed soil scientist. This is not TDEC staff. We do not do this. There's a shortage of soil scientists in the state. For example, in West Tennessee, we only have 1 to cover 1/3 of the state, 1 person. So if you think that you're going to need a septic system, go ahead and get in line for your soil scientist just so they can fit you in quickly. Keep in mind that permits are site-specific. So oftentimes, or it's not uncommon for someone to call and say, I submitted my application, where's my permit? Like 5 minutes later, like it's an auto-generated thing. It's not. Our permits are site-specific. TDEC staff will visit your site. They'll look at the soils map. They'll determine where a septic system can go based on the soils on site. So because it's so site-specific, staff do have 45 days to get out there and perform the work. So keep that in mind. It's not immediate. And also, please be flexible. Septic systems can only go in certain types of soils. So just because you want a septic system in this particular location on your property doesn't mean that it can go in that location. And TDEC staff will work with you to figure that out. I'm going to quickly go through these other ones because they're not as prevalent. So another question we get asked is, what about my drinking water? If you're installing a well, then go ahead and contact TDEC. We need to be notified, and your well driller should be licensed through TDEC, and we have a link for that. I'm sure Caleb will make these slides available, or you can Google TDEC licensed well driller, and it'll pop up. If you connect to a municipality for your drinking water, there's no TDEC involvement on your part. We work directly with that municipality. Another question is, what do I do with my solid waste? So we have several options here. One is hauling off your waste, so using a third party to haul it off. Compost, and no TDEC involvement in that one. Another option is to compost. There are leniencies with agriculture, so if you're composting, you have to be composting a lot to apply to to fit under our regulations. But if you have any questions about that, go ahead and give us a call. We'll talk you through that process. Another one is incineration. If you are incinerating everything, again, there are exemptions for agriculture, but go ahead and give us a call. We'll talk through that, figure out if an air permit applies or if it doesn't. I'm going to skip through those because they're not as applicable, and I want to talk about our resources. So those were all the permits. Resources, we try to provide as much information as we can online. So, first, forgot about this one. We are a resource, Small Business Environmental Assistance Program. So, as I mentioned, there's a colleague and me, Donovan, we work statewide. Our role is to provide technical assistance on any environmental questions that a small business may have. We can help determine if environmental permits are needed for site-specific activities. So that goes back to, do you need a water permit, solid waste permit, air permit? We also guide the small businesses through the permitting process. So we help complete applications. We can perform calculations if necessary. A lot of permits require documentation, and we can help facilities develop that tracking documentation to use on site. We help with site-specific technical, administrative, and compliance problems and provide outreach and training. So what is a small business? If you're wondering if you apply for or you qualify for our assistance, it's any business that has less than 100 employees, is not a major source of air pollutant emissions, and is not a large quantity generator of hazardous waste. So those last two, major source of air pollutant emissions and large quantity generator of hazardous waste, those are technical terms, and chances are if you're on this webinar or if you're listening to this webinar at a later time, if you're in agritourism, you do not fit under those qualifications as major source or large quantity generator. Therefore, we can provide assistance for you. We also have a website, and that's where we try to provide as much information as we can. So we have an agribusiness-specific webpage, and for y'all, for the agritourism side, we have tabs for resources for farmers and agribusiness, and also we have a link where we put all of our agribusiness-related webinars onto our website. So feel free to use those, visit those when you need. And we do have access over our website. Donovan is in complete control of our website, so if there's a question that we get frequently, anything that needs to be changed or updated, like if a rule changes or updates, we can immediately update our website to show you the most up-to-date, accurate information. So in summary, a few things to remember from this presentation are that permits may be required from several regulatory divisions. For agritourism, the most common permit is wastewater disposal via septic systems. And most importantly, this information can be very overwhelming. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We are happy to help. That is our job. I like to say that I think all TDEC staff are helpful, but know that if you have any questions, we can help. That is our job. We have an e-newsletter that we send out about quarterly. If you want to, and on that newsletter, we provide just updates of what's going on, and then we try to help explain environmental regulations. Any questions that we're getting that are popular at that time, we try to address those in the newsletter to make them relevant to our readers. So if you want to sign up for that newsletter, go ahead and send us an email and we'll get you signed up. We have a hotline number that we man during working hours. It's not 24/7, but during working hours, so that's listed. You can call that. We have an email address specifically for us. And then we're also on Facebook and Twitter, and we try to post relevant information to our viewers on our Facebook and Twitter. So follow us on those. All right, and then the last slide is our contact information. I'm on the left, Donovan's picture on the right. So if you have any questions, comments, want to learn anything else or discuss environmental regulations at all, give Donovan and me a call. We're pretty passionate about it. We can talk about them for a long time. And that's all I have, Caleb.
Well, thanks, Crystal. It's all, we work side by side in the same office, and every time I get to hear all the resources that you guys and just like all the work that you do, it always is so impressive to me. So I hope that everyone was able to learn a little bit about that. And this is something that I always joke around in our office, that ever since meeting Crystal and Donovan, and our office is getting put together, I've been the biggest cheerleader for the Small Business Environmental Assistance Program. I think it's one of the best resources that we have in the state, clearly for small businesses, but really just from an environmental standpoint. Donovan and Crystal have such extensive knowledge when it comes to permitting and just with their experiences being in the environmental field. I think that, yeah, if you have any question at all, they're the people that can put you, if they don't know the information, which it's hard for me to think that Donovan won't know the information, but if they don't, then they definitely will have the right contact information to get you in contact with who you need to be in contact with. So I wanted to, let me check. No questions at this time. I know it's a lot of information, so I will be sending the recording link. We'll put it on our YouTube so that you can go back and check some things. I will be including I will be sending out a follow-up email to everybody that was registered with the link to that, the presentation slides in PDF form, and then also any of the links that were in there. You will be able to, of course, get those from the PDF of the presentation, but I also will house those in the actual email message part of that. Yeah, just wanted to say thanks, Kacey and Crystal and Donovan, for the work that you do. I think it's really great how we are collaborating together, and I think this is a good resource for all of our agritourism farms and really just agribusinesses around the state. So like I said, any questions that you guys maybe come up with, eating dinner tonight, oh man, I wish I would have asked that, feel free to send an email either to either of the presenters here, or you can send one to me. My email is caleb.powell@tn.gov. So really thank everyone for joining. Hope everyone has a great week and a good Thanksgiving. So thanks for being a part of it.
Thank you, y'all.